Namaskar, I'm Amit Rana, and on this web broadcast by Roots in Kashmir, I am going to talk about Kashmir, an integral part of Bharatvarsh from time immemorial. Before I start, I, on the behalf of Roots in Kashmir team, would like to thank the COVID warriors for the services they are rendering to this nation and to the society. Our heartfelt gratitude. For many years, propagandists, separatists, terrorists, apologists, left liberals have been propagating a lie to justify the violence in Kashmir, the jihad in Kashmir. Uh, Not only have the left liberals used this lie to their convenience, the intellectual class has also fallen for it. And unfortunately, this lie is used to justify the crimes of terror in Kashmir. Article 370 and 35A also did not help. In fact, they strengthened the belief, the lie, because people of India, people of Kashmir, believe that there must be some truth in what is being said. Otherwise, why would the state of India give such concessions, such special privileges to a particular state? To such a level, this lie has taken root that many Kashmiris have started believing seriously in the same. Many of our friends who travel to Kashmir come back and saying, what is wrong with Kashmiris? वो क्यों बोलते हैं कि आप हिंदुस्तान से आए हैं, कश्मीर तो कभी हिंदुस्तान का अंग था ही नहीं. Today, we will attempt to burst these lies, we will attempt to demolish these false narratives, and I will tell you how Kashmir has been an integral part of Bharatvarsh, not only geographically but politically, religiously, spiritually and culturally. Once in UN, the Indian representative to UN was making a speech on Kashmir. He said, before I speak, I want to share something with you. Rishi Kashyap, after whom the valley of Kashmir is named, was decided to have a bath, and when he came out, he found his clothes missing. A Pakistani had stolen them. Pakistani ambassador sitting next to him was furious. He shouted, he got up and shouted, what nonsense are you talking? The Pakistanis weren't there then. The Indian representative smiled and said, now that we have made it clear, let me start. Yes, this is a joke which most of you would have heard, a joke which brings smile to many faces. But the joke is also the truth. A nation which has a history of only 72 years, maybe not even 72 years because the nation got divided into two 40 years back, a nation which has a history of 40 years, today claims a right over a part which has been part of India for more than 5,000 years, for more than time immemorial. We will divide today's topic in three parts, largely three parts with considerable amount of overlap, pardon me for that. It will be culture, religion, linguistic, historical and political. Bharat etymologically is derived from two words, Bha and Rat. Bha means the light, Rat means immersed, devoted. So Bharatvarsh is just not a geospace but also a geocultural matrix from which various thoughts, concepts embedded in the depth of the consciousness of its people have emanated, giving shape to a great civilization called Bharatvarsh or India. Vishnu Puran defines this land north of the ocean and south of the great snowy mountain Himalayas. Thus, Kashmir, not only by geospace definition but also by geocultural matrix, has been part of this great civilization Bharat from time immemorial. The land Kashmir derives its name from sage Kashyap. Kashyap Mar, Kashyap ki bhumi, Kashyap ki zameen, Kashyap ka ghar. The story of Vedic culture, the story of Sanatan Dharma is written all over the history of Kashmir from its page 1. The Satisar, as Kashmir was known earlier, was given to Nagas on request of Vasuki. Vasuki is the snake that adorns the Shiva's neck, because in the fight between Garudas and Nagas, the Nagas were losing. They sought refuge of Bhagwan Vishnu. Bhagwan Vishnu allotted them Satisar and asked them to live there. Interestingly, there is a village called Vasukur in Gandarbal, believed to be the village of Vasuki. It still exists in Kashmir. Gandarbal is the political constituency of Abdullahs. It's a traditional family stronghold of Abdullahs. Then comes the killing of demon Jalod Bhava. Jalod Bhava was killed by Mother Goddess herself. She came in the form of a sparrow. Her, as we call sparrow in Kashmiri, Maina. carrying a pebble in her beak. She came, she dropped the pebble became the hill and crushed the demon, killed the demon. And the hill still exists. The hill is called Hari Parbat, as most of you know it. It's called Hari Parbat. The temple of Sparrow, Hari temple, still exists on Kashmir, at Hari Parbat, on top of the hill. Enough attempts have been made to rename the hill. They have started calling it Kohe Maran. Kohe Maran means the mound of snakes, the mound of dead bodies, depending on how you want to interpret it. Thankfully to the people of Kashmir, thankfully to the people of India, it has not had the desired result. It is still known as Hari Parbat, although many governments have tried their best to get the name changed. Many projects in the vicinity or on the hill have an address called Kohe Maran. Once the Jalod Bhava was killed, the water was drained out of Satisar. Sage Kashyap requested Neel. Neel was the Naga king, to allow Manu Putras to reside in the valley. And that is at 50 to 100 years of recorded history. The Hindus of Kashmir have a recorded history of 50 to 100 years. The Nirmat Puran, probably the only Puran which talks about land, space, people, culture, is a Nirmat Puran, is about Kashmir. It starts with a question. Which says, why did the kingdom of Kashmir, which was no less than any other kingdom in this country, which is no less than any other kingdom in this country, not participate in Mahabharata, the great battle of Bharatvarsha? So listen to what it says. The question says, a kingdom which is no less equal to any other kingdom in this country. That's the question. Why did it not participate in Mahabharata? And then Nilmat Puran answers it. It says that just before Mahabharata, the king of Kashmir was Gonanda. Gonanda was related to Jarasingh. Jarasingh sought his help in his battles with Yadavas. Gonanda gets killed by Balrama. Balrama kills him, and Gonanda's son Damodar then goes to avenge his father's death, gets killed by Bhagwan Krishna. Krishna understands the importance of Kashmir. He himself travels to Kashmir. When he himself travels to Kashmir, he coronates the widow of Damodar, makes her the ruler of Kashmir. Probably for the first time in the history of mankind, a female is coronated, is made the ruler of the land, and by Bhagwan Krishna himself. At the time of the war, the Kashmir was ruled by a queen, and the heir apparent was Gonanda II, as the son of Damodara was called, was a minor. And since minors and women were not expected to fight in the battles, were not allowed to fight in the wars, Kashmir was exempted. That was the Yug. Unlike today, where unfortunately, sadly, the terror organizations use minors, non-adults, to wage the war against innocents, to kill innocents. That's the unfortunate part of it today. The Mahabharata, Adi Parva, clearly states that the sons of Pandu, that is the Pandavas, grew up in the area called as Himvat, in the mountains of Himvat, which many scholars today believe is today's Kashmir. Every inch of Kashmir talks about its connection with Bharatvarsha. When Jalod Baba was killed, Bhagwan Vishnu asked Ananta to drain out the water of Satisar. Ananta broke the mountain barrier at a place called Varahamula. Vara Bhagwan Vishnu का एक अवतार है. It's one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu. He breaks that mountain barrier, drains out the water. Kashmiris still call that place Varamul. Officially, although the place is officially called Baramulla. Why? Is it corruption over that time? Is it deliberate mischief? I don't know, but that's what it is as of today. Kashmir, yes, definitely was geographically a difficult place. Even today, with so much advancement in infrastructure, technology and other technologies, the road to Kashmir is at least shut to 30 to 60 days in a year. And in ancient times, when we didn't have such technology, it would have been much more difficult for people to travel to other pilgrimage sites in India. The harsh winters would have stopped them, the mountains, the roads, the wild animals. So what did Kashmiris do? They did not create their, they went and created replicas of India's pilgrimage centers in Kashmir. Such was the connect that they went and they made India's pilgrimage center replicas in Kashmir. So in Kashmir you have Godavari Tirth, in Kashmir you have Sangam, in Kashmir you have Prayag, in Kashmir you have Tripur Sundari's temple. Tripur Sundari's temple, only prominent three Tripur Sundari temples in India are, one is at Guwahati, one is at Udaipur, and one is at Kashmir. We have Bhadrakali, the goddess of Bengal, as one of the Kul Devis in Kashmir, with her abode in North Kashmir, close to the place where the unfortunate encounter happened last night, and we lost 5 of our brave soldiers. We also have our own Ganga. And we have our own Kailash. Harmukh mountain is believed to be the equivalent of Kailash in Kashmir. The water which flows from Harmukh mountain to a lake called Gangbal is believed to be the water flowing from Jata. Shiv Bhagwan ke jataon se behta hua pani, from the locks of Shiva, and this water then goes and merges into a river called Vitasta, also known as Jhelum. And Vitasta is believed to be Mother Parvati flowing in the form of a river. And the importance of these places, Prayag, Ganga, Sangam, is the same as what the actuals have in other parts of India. The land of Kashmir also had great contribution to the Vedic civilization, to the Sanskrit literature of this country. It won't be unfair to call it the hub. It was the hub. Patanjali, the great commentator on Panani's work, often refers to the people of Kashmir as Kashmirikas. In fact, it's believed that Patanjali himself was a Kashmiri. He was from Kashmir. Many Purans, Vishnu Puran, Vayu Puran, Padma Puran, Matsya Puran, mention Kashmir. In the field of creative literature, the whole gateway of brilliant scholars come from Kashmir. Damodar Gupta, Jayanta, Somdeva, Bilhan, Kalhan, amongst many, many others. It is in this land, it is in the land of Kashmir, Somdeva wrote the great Indian magnum opus called Katha Sarita Sagar. Sanskrit ki beti, daughter of Sanskrit, is what Dr. Toshkhani calls Kashmiri, the language Kashmiri. George Buehler, the most respected, probably the most respected scholar of Indian languages, believes that Kashmiri descended from the Vedic speech, one of the dialects of classic Sanskrit. Adi Shankaracharya, the great philosopher, the great sage, in his desire, in his effort to revive the knowledge of Upanishads, the teachings of Upanishads, the Vedanta, decided to travel the length and breadth of this country. And part of his travel itinerary included Kashmir. So Adi Shankaracharya, to revive Upanishads, decided to travel the length and breadth of Bharatvarsh, length and breadth of this country, and part of his itinerary is Kashmir. It is in Kashmir that Adi Shankaracharya acknowledges and admits the importance of Shakti. It is in Kashmir that Adi Shankaracharya writes the great Saundarya Lahari, the beautiful Saundarya Lahari. It is in Kashmir, in awe of Adi Shankaracharya, in respect of Adi Shankaracharya, Sharda Peeth, at that point greatest learning center of India, opens the south door as a mark of respect for the great sage, as a mark of respect for the great man. It is said that the targa, the traditional cloth head cap Kashmiri Hindu women wear, is a gift from Adi Shankaracharya, a symbolic gift of crown from an ascetic to the women of Kashmir. Even today, many Kashmiris, many Indians, many Brahmins at Banaras recite Namaste Sharda Devi, Kashmir Purvasani. Salutations to you, O Mother, a goddess who resides in Kashmir. I pray to you daily. Please give me the charity of knowledge. It is said even today, the Brahmins of Banaras, as during their thread ceremony, the Upamanyu ceremony, take 7 steps towards north as a symbolic representation of having visited Sharda to complete their education. Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism had its birth in Kashmir. It is from here Buddhism spread to rest of Asia, China, Tibet, Korea, Japan. Even today, China says that India conquered China for 20 centuries culturally without sending a single soldier across the border. India conquered China for 20 centuries without sending a single soldier across the border. So, who took Buddhism to China, to Tibet, to Japan? Monks from Kashmir. And what does China say? India culturally took over China for 20 centuries. So, somewhere Chinese also admit that Kashmir has been an integral part of India from the time immemorial. Forget the stand they take today. They have their own geopolitical reasons, they have their own power ambitions, but deep in the heart, they also admit that Kashmir has been an integral part of India for centuries. We Kashmiri Pandits have seen many exoduses, some small, some big, multiple exoduses, and we believe that there have been 7 major exoduses, 7 big exoduses. And all these exoduses have primarily happened because of genocide by the cruel Islamic rulers, in an attempt to convert people by sword to Islam. And where did these people run to seek shelter, to seek asylum? No, they did not go to China. No, they did not go to Central Asia. No, they did not go to some other part of the world. They went to the rest of India, this Indian subcontinent, because when you run to a place which you think is yours, which you believe is yours, where you will get accepted. Even in 1990, when Kashmiri Pandits were forced to flee from Kashmir, most of them ended up in Jammu, part of J&K state, a much more peaceful region. They ended up in Jammu, and many like me went to settle down in other parts of India. Even Kashmiri Muslims, even people who fled because of terrorism, people who had threat, people who didn't want to live in the violent this or any other reasons, came to the other parts of India. No, they did not go to Pakistan. They did not go to China. They came to other parts of this country. The sufferings of Kashmiri Pandits had their pain, but it also, because of them going to other parts of the country, it also enriched the culture, arts of that place. One example that comes to my mind quite often is the Pahadi Kangra School of Arts. The fugitive KP family which ran away because with their genius. While I think the gentleman's name was Shu Raina, he established the pre-Kangra style. His descendants led to the ultimate blooming of the style. Most of you would now agree with me that Kashmir has been integral part of India, of Bharatvarsh, from its birth, religiously, culturally, mythologically and linguistically. And you must be wondering why I said why. Why did I say all of you? Because however hard you try, you are not going to convince a jihadi. You are not going to make him agree to you, because he is hell-bent on not agreeing to you. He will continue to call Shankaracharya Hill as Suleiman Ting, the hill of Solomon, in spite of none of the Abrahamic texts. None of the Abrahamic texts mention Kashmir, none of the Abrahamic texts mention trip of Solomon to Kashmir, but he will continue to tell you that Solomon rested at this hill. Same is the story with Anantnag. They will continue to call it Islamabad because it helps them to erase the history of Kafirs. But at the same time, I would be unfair if I do not acknowledge that most of the Muslims, many of the Muslims acknowledge their Hindu history, acknowledge the history of Kashmir in its true form, and many of Kashmiri Muslim scholars have done fantastic, tremendous job on the same, fantastic research, fantastic true research on the same. Kashmir has been part of many great empires. The Mughals, the Mauryas, the Kushans, the Kamboj, the Sikhs, the British India. Ashoka, the great king of India, founded the capital city of Kashmir. Yes, it was Ashoka who founded the capital city of Kashmir. He named it Srinagari. Sri is one of the honorific titles of Mother Lakshmi. माता लक्ष्मी के कई नामों में से एक नाम श्री है, और कश्मीर की जो राजधानी है श्रीनगर, श्रीनगरी माता लक्ष्मी के नाम पर है. यहीं पे हर्षा ने अपनी चौथी बुद्धिस्ट काउंसिल करी थी. इट वाज हियर हर्षा हु डिड हिज फोर्थ बुद्धिस्ट काउंसिल. it is Kashmir is known as the birthplace of what is known as Sanskrit Buddhism. Sanskrit Buddhism की का जन्म कश्मीर में हुआ था. The great scholar of Shaivism, Acharya Abhinav Gupta, his ancestors migrated from Cambodge to Kashmir under the patronage of the great Indian king Lalitaditya. Lalitaditya, who was a Kashmiri, is believed to be one of the greatest kings of Indian subcontinent. His kingdom started at Karnataka in south, went up to Central Asia, Afghanistan in north. In east, it went up to Orissa and Bengal, and west up to Konkan. With advent of Islam, Kashmir saw last of its local rulers. The first Muslim dynasty of Kashmir was the Shahmir dynasty. The king was Shahmir, who himself was either of Turk or Persian origin, had settled in Swat, had to flee from Swat, took asylum in Kashmir, was given an important post in the kingdom of Kashmir. Destiny made him the Sultan of Kashmir, and the first Muslim king, the first Muslim dynasty, the first Muslim king also was not from Kashmir. You will find many Kashmiris, many apologists saying that Yusuf Chak was the last indigenous ruler of Jammu and Kashmir. I don't think there can be a more blatant lie, a more blatant insult to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. The last indigenous ruler of Jammu and Kashmir was Maharaja Hari Singh, who ruled that state till 26 October 1947, till he signed the Treaty of Accession. Maharaja Hari Singh was a Dogra. Dogras are integral part of Jammu and Kashmir. They are the aborigines of Jammu and Kashmir, and he was the last ruler of Jammu, indigenous ruler of Jammu and Kashmir. Interestingly, the Dogras claim to be Raghuvanshi, Suryavanshi, descendants of Bhagwan Ram. तो अपने आप को वो रघुवंशी कहते हैं. They believe to be the descendants of Bhagwan Ram. And Bhagwan Ram, as we know, is one of the most respected, one of the most worshipped god of the Indian subcontinent. Interestingly, Chaks are not Kashmiris, they are Dhardis. They come from the Baltistan areas. I don't know how many of you know, but Yusuf Chak got rid by Mughals on invitation of the great Sufi saint Sheikh Hamza Makhdoom, also known as Makhdoom Sahib by Kashmiris. Makhdoom Sahib invited Mughals to get rid of the tyrant called Yusuf Chak. In last 450 years, Kashmir has been part of the great Indian empires, except for 65 to 67 years of the Pathan Afghan rule. So while Kashmiri separatists, Kashmiri apologists leave no chance to belittle Maharaja Hari Singh, they don't forget to mention and falsely claim that Maharaja Hari Singh was the last independent ruler of Kashmir was independent till 1947. India forcefully took over Kashmir. हम एक आज़ाद मुल्क थे. The truth is not that. Jammu and Kashmir was part of the British Indian Empire. Prior to that, it was part of the Sikh Empire. Prior to that, it was part of the Mughal Empire. And the Crown of England had the suzerainty over the kingdom of Jammu and Kashmir, which was exercised through the Viceroy of Kashmir. Maharaja Hari Singh signed the same Treaty of Accession. He signed the same Treaty of Accession which other 569 princely states of India signed. Such has been the foolish attempts of people to claim that Kashmiris have been independent, they have nothing to do with India, forgetting that some of the most prominent freedom fighters of India were Kashmiris. Kailash Nath Kataju, Tej Bahadur Sapru, Motilal Nehru, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, and even Iqbal himself, the poet Iqbal, who wrote Sare Jahan Se Acha, himself was of Kashmiri origin. He was a Kashmiri. India's first Prime Minister, India's first Prime Minister was a Kashmiri. India's longest serving Prime Minister was a Kashmiri. India's first female Prime Minister was a Kashmiri. The person who established Research and Analysis Wing, also known as RNAW, was a Kashmiri. Kashmiris have headed the Indian Army. Kashmiris have headed the Indian Air Force. Kashmiris have headed the Indian bureaucracy. Such was the control of Kashmiris on Indian bureaucracy that it was known as Kashmiri Cartel. A prominent politician once told me that when he first visited to the Raj Bhavan at Shimla, so there is a photograph of Shimla Agreement. He says in the entire photograph there were only 2 non-Kashmiris. So I asked him, "Kaun?" He says, Benazir Bhutto and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Rest everyone from India was a Kashmiri. So it is Kashmiri language itself is part of the 22 scheduled languages of India. It's a scheduled language of India. It's a scheduled language of India. The issue is not that Pakistan, liberals, the prominent journalists, the apologists are not aware of this fact. They are aware of this truth. The problem is admitting this truth will defeat the foundation of jihad in Kashmir. The jihad of Kashmir has been disguised. It has been disguised as a fight of people who have never been part of India. तो उसको बहुत एक कपड़ा पहनाया गया, एक जामा पहनाया गया कि अरे हम तो कभी भारत का हिस्सा थे ही नहीं, तो हमारी ये आज़ादी की लड़ाई है. A jihad has been disguised as a fight of people who have never been part of India. And the more the truth comes out open, the more people speak about this truth, it is going to hurt establishing of Nizam-e-Mustafa in Kashmir. And as a citizen of this nation, your duty, my duty, our duty is to demolish this lie. The lies, the walls of lies needs to be demolished. Dear friends, if you have any question, any query, please don't hesitate to write to us on our Facebook group, on our Facebook page, or on our Twitter handle, Roots in Kashmir. We would try our best to answer your query. Till then, stay safe, take care. Thank you very much. Namaskar.